I'm Mr. Rosansky, and, well, we made it to the post-penultimate part of passive voice. Now that we have done foundational activities of understanding participles and prepositions, now that we have done some identification activities and pseudo-creation activities, we can finally broach the subject of what does passive voice do? This is page 21. It might look a bit familiar because I put it up in another video and I provided this information, but maybe you didn't need to watch that video, so you didn't have the opportunity to copy down these notes. Take these if you'd like on page 21 so that you never have to refer to old videos to see these if you need them. On page 21, we have this general information, the formula for passivization that we spent a lot of time manipulating, the presence of to-be verbs, participial or prepositional phrases in the case of passive voice. I've written out steps for passivization that I think are pretty fun. They can help you out a lot. Then this is the lesson of the day, the effects of passive voice. I'm going to put these up and write page 21 on the bottom right here. Pause this video, get these notes down. These are 3 general effects of passive voice that we're going to use to break down in the activity. Each one of these can break down to further justifications, and that's what I'm going to explain as we're doing the activity. But at its constituent elements, there are 3 effects of passive voice, in my opinion. Focus can be controlled. Another very important effect of passive voice is you can omit information, the doer or actor, in order to hide or remove bias, guilt, accountability. And there are other things that we can list here. There are so many things that we can list here, in fact. But these are just 3 general things that I think hit a lot of the reasons why people might use passive voice. And then the final sentence, it's verbosity, having an extra verb and an extra preposition, because we have to add like to be, and we have to add by, is attributed to unnecessary complexity and confusion. That's an effect, and it might not be a positive one, but it is one nonetheless. It's why, in the first video, I talked about how there is a malicious group of underground people who are trying to contaminate the minds of our youth, that passive voice is to be avoided, which is silly. But I already said that, so no more shade needs to be thrown. So the activity is applying these 3 bullet points where we see fit, and digging into more fleshed out explanations of what I mean by focus can be controlled, omitting of information, and verbosity. The value of this next part isn't the destination, but the friends that we make along the way. No, it's not to get the task done. It's the things that I'm saying, because I'm giving a lot more with my words than the activity lends itself to. Because you can get this activity done simply. It just asks, do you see a by phrase? And that's unbelievably simple. But I'm setting a foundation on effects, so that when we do this like peel structure in the future and we start writing, you have the opportunity to come back to this video and see me explain effects, and then you practice the writing portion of it. So I draw some things out because the importance isn't for this activity but for the future, and for you to really have a nice understanding of passive voice. My phone was broken. This is passive voice, and no, a doer or an agent is not supplied. The reason why someone might do this is to hide guilt. Like, the active voice equivalent of this could be, my phone was broken by me because I'm negligent and irresponsible and I think it's fun to throw it up in the air and try to catch it. That could be what the active voice sentence is, but because of passive voice, you can move the doer of the action to a prepositional phrase and then take it out of the sentence, so that when your father hears this information, he's not super mad at you. He's just mad at the world in general that he has to spend another $1,000 to buy you a new phone. So passive voice can hide the doer in order to hide guilt, to save one's butt. It results in time lost in novels, which should be instructively employed. No, a doer agent is not supplied. I think in this instance, passive voice with a hidden agent phrase might be used to hide a potential authoritarian command. Because the reader of this could fall into 2 categories. One of these categories is people who agree with Thomas Jefferson, and they think that reading for fun is dumb. So if he were to write this in active voice, it results in time lost in novels, which you should instructively employ. readers who agree with Thomas Jefferson already might read this and say, hey, heck you, I already hate reading for fun. You don't have to convince me, guy. I'm going to stop reading. And the other side is people who do read for fun, and he is working to convince them that it is a waste of time to read just for fun. If he is too preachy, too accusatory, with an overabundance of yous, he could make his purpose fail just through the constant nagging you. Something created the world. No, a doer, an agent, is not supplied. Passive voice can be used if the doer is unknown, obvious, or irrelevant. In this case, I would say it's unknown and irrelevant. If I were writing this story for real, I would have written it in passive voice and just said, the world was created, and moved on. Because the something that created the world is not a part of the story. I don't want to incite controversy of there is some sort of omnipotent being who created the world, or the world created itself. I just wanted to get into my stupid story about coronavirus so that I can move on with my life. That's why I used passive voice. I'll save you from my impersonation. American ships have been reported torpedoed on the high seas between San Francisco and Honolulu. No. A doer, an agent, is not supplied. We don't know who did the reporting. We just know that it was reported. This falls in the same category as the last one. It's irrelevant or obvious or unknown who did the doing of the reporting. All that matters is someone did. Don't cite his sources of credibility. It doesn't matter. And it also might be a secret. We might have secret spy planes that were doing the detection of these attacks, and we don't really want to reveal that bit of information. So this is a very valid reason where it might be known, but it's hiding from the public who did the doing, just to focus on the destruction that Japan caused. Your submission has been judged, or was judged. Apparently I can't read. And it won the competition. No, a doer, an agent, is not supplied. Passive voice can be used to hide bias. Another example sentence that probably works a little bit better is, it has been found that vaping causes cancer. If it was I who found this out, I found that vaping causes cancer, then you would immediately call into question, who the heck are you to be making these studies? You're just a school teacher behind a Yeti microphone. You don't know what you're doing, so to make a claim that you have discovered something scientific is silly. So that's a simple and accessible one for hiding bias, but we're back to this sentence, your submission was judged and it won the competition. Bias could be hidden because what if your submission was judged by me and it won the competition? By taking out the by me, what it takes away is the true fact that obviously, if I were judging your work, I would have you win because I care about you more than anyone else in this world. We could remove that doer so that you feel better about the accomplishment, so that you don't see that I was pulling strings behind the scenes to make sure that you won. So bias and agency can be taken away for a lot of different reasons. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. Psych, yes, a doer agent is supplied. It's right here. Probably should have scrambled the order to make it a little bit more interesting, but I wanted to do it this way. There is our agent, there's our doer, so we're going to remove any notions of hiding guilt, potential authoritarian command, irrelevant or obvious or unknown is the doer, and to hide bias. This is going to deal with something that I would consider information delivery. End weight theory is what this deals with. What I've highlighted is pretty darn long, and it's pretty darn foreign to the audience, not just spatially, but conceptually. I doubt that often they think about the naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. End weight theory means that long noun phrases should be at the end of a sentence, because it's easier for the listener or reader to understand what's going on. So the United States of America is much shorter than naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. So the speakers decided to put it at the end to make the information more accessible, because an active voice would be the naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan suddenly and deliberately attacked the United States of America. The buy-in isn't as high to start with the place where everybody is and loves and knows, and then moving on to the action that they were assaulted, and then the doer. It helps the reader or listener understand information better by having very familiar information at the start, but also very long information at the end. Extreme distance had separated unique societies. However, now, unique societies have been connected by the internet. It's super duper easy. I see the by the internet, because of the internet. Yes, a doer is supplied. It's right there. An active voice, this would read. However, now the internet has connected new or unique societies. In this instance, I would write it as it is typed because of something called the given new contract. When you're delivering information to people, if you want it to be munched on and digested readily, then you should have information that's already known presented before new ones. So if I've never mentioned the internet before, it makes sense to have it at the end of the sentence. Since unique societies is here and unique societies is here, it helps the reader go from known to unknown. If you've ever been confused by someone who's talking and it's hard to articulate why you're so confused, chances are it's because of the given new contract, where they're just scrambling information all over the place and they're trusting for you to remember and unpack and supply and think. Good writing, good speaking, this isn't meant to be insulting, but good writing and good speaking, you shouldn't have your reader think to decode what you're saying. They should just be able to appreciate it and then marinate on like the big ideas that you're presenting. So passive voice can be used to control information, to be governed by given new contract and unique societies, close to unique societies, and then this new information, the internet at the end, is very nice. The final 3 sentences serve as an opportunity for you to create sentences in passive voice that use the aforementioned effects. For each one of these sentences, on your version of the form, there will be a specific timestamp that you should watch so that you can recreate a sentence that does the demand as accurately as possible. Use my sentence provided as inspiration to do the right thing. I'm going to be critical about these sentences, so make sure that you watch, make sure that you're doing your best to do the right thing, and then I'll be flexible within that realm. Okay.